Welcome. Today I will walk you through step by step how I made $600 with this A plus IFVG plus CISD short setup. Okay, now we're going to start off at market open, or my pre-market actually. Going into the market, I will pull up my Discord here where I send out my free pre-market analysis every day. I had said Asia had manipulated on an internal high and a high time frame buy side on ES and began distributing to sell side. Depending on how the low time frame power threes develop, I would either like to see continuation down to high time frame sell side or may consider a rebalance higher as there are lots of LR being generated. And what I have marked, I marked the ES had swept previous week high during Asia session. And then NASDAQ was delivering from this manipulation at the same time. So two asset manipulation, but within a 4 hour fair value gap. And then clear displacement lower, drawing to a high time frame sell side on NASDAQ and high time frame sell side on ES. YM, didn't show anything clear, so I wasn't too concerned with what YM was doing. Okay, moving in. So I want continuation lower to the high time frame sell side. Okay, so how am I going to operate and manage or structure my trade for a framework to have a short setup to this high time frame sell side, right? I want to form, or I want to wait for price to form a protected high, okay? Within, after mitigating some key level, or I want a price to form a protected high to then seek lower prices and continuation of this trend, right? As long as we're distributing and we're continuing from this, reversal higher, we're going to form these protected highs, right? And then continue to move lower until we hit our objective or draw on liquidity. Okay, so what am I waiting for to protect the high to form? How can I be sure and make sure of a protected high, right? First, I want a key level, right? And what is my key level here? Okay, so how do I pick my key level? Price is already mitigated and displaced from this fair value gap. So the next thing that I see is this fair value gap, right? And this is present on both assets, right? We have this fair value gap on both ES and NASDAQ. So if we're going to continue to be bearish, this is my condition, right? We get a key level slash condition that will distribute price to our objective. So we have this 1 hour fair value gap on both assets that I expect for price to distribute lower. For YM, it's tougher. There's no fair value gap. So if we're going to manipulate on YM, it would either be this high or this high here. So it could expand bearish. Okay. So I have my 1 hour objective. Okay. So we actually began to mitigate that pre-market. Okay. So this is 928 we're looking at, and price is already mitigating a 1 hour fair value gap. How did I refine my condition? So I looked inside of this 1 hour fair value gap, right? There's no 15-minute fair value gap. I go to lower time frame, and what do I see? I see we have this kind of engineered liquidity right here, and then this is this prominent internal high. So I actually had this as my key level that I want price to distribute from. Okay, so that's still within this fair value gap, and over here it's tougher, but we still have these stacked highs right here. And then, if price fails to distribute from this internal high, I would expect price to run this LR above here and maybe distribute from a more premium gap. But this is my refined key level that I was going into market open with. Okay. And the targets here, what was I going to target? Obviously, the sell side below, right? But we also had this data low, which is like from someone like a Trump said something. So we had data low as well as this engineered liquidity, right? These failure swings above it leading to this data low. Okay, so we have clear draws lower, right? This data low is even a failure swing to this draw, and then another failure swing to the data low. So we're just engineering liquidity at the lows. We're trending bearish, so we want to wait for a protected high to form to continue the trend. Okay, so protected high, right? We have the key level and condition. You want it to align with our power of three development. Okay, so what power of three development does this trade align with? It aligns with a 30-minute power of three, the 9:30 30-minute power of three. Why? I'm gonna wait until market opens. Boom. What does 9:30 do? Okay. 930 opens, right? 930 opens higher into that key level, right? Open, high, low, close. And if you want to be bearish, we want to see now distribution down to our drawn liquidity, okay? Notice the key level that we're manipulating immediately at open of this power of 3 development, okay? 930 opens higher. So power of 3 confirms it, okay? Now, what else can we have to confirm our manipulation or protected high, right? We could have a cracked correlation, SSMT, SMT. I do not believe, I mean, I guess we did have, I think YM ran like all these highs right here. So we did end up forming, you know, some SMT at these highs right here. I wasn't too attached to that due to the fact that I just saw all assets manipulating higher into this key level, opening higher, and we're bearish. So this is perfect that we're opening higher into key level. I want to see lower prices. Okay. So then after this, so now we have this key level condition that we need to respect. So if we're going to respect this, we want to see expansion away from this key level. So, oops. So now we want to see expansion into, then out of key level. And then mechanically, you can confirm this with CISD and or IFVG. Okay. So you want to see expansion into the key level that represents manipulation. Okay. Align with the power of 3 opening higher. You want to see expansion out of the key level with CISD and or inertial value gap. So price comes up, kind of doesn't really do anything up here, fails to push higher, right? We're wicking these highs. YM just wicking higher. And then what do we have immediately? We get clear expansion out of this condition, out of this key level. So respecting this condition or the 1 hour fair value gap, we're rejecting from this internal high. Okay. We have expansion into the key level representing manipulation, expansion out of the key level. So now what does this tell us, right? This tells us that we've opened higher, we have manipulated into the key level. I keep repeating this because it's really what it is. It's the same thing every time. We have the manipulation. We have our open high, right? Open, oops, high. And now what are we expecting, right? We're expecting distribution lower. And how can we enter on this, right? This is how we enter with the CISD and or IFVG. So this is exactly what I did right here. I actually entered a little bit earlier. I anticipated the CISD just because 930 volatility. If this is our high, I expect us to actually dump. So I think I got filled about here. Stops at the top of this order block. And then I was targeting this high time frame draw, about 2R here. Okay, so now, right, we have the expansion into and out of the key level aligned with the power of 3 development, right? Open higher. Expansion away should confirm that this high is established, that this high is put in. So now, you know, there's nothing, this to me is all LR. There's no like significant thing we should reverse off or could reverse off. So I honestly wasn't even too interested in going break even here. I could go break even based off how price developed after. So what happened is continue to dump after we had this wick and hard rejection, right? We're respecting these bearish imbalances. And we continue to distribute lower. I had gone break even when we had took this low, right? With 930 being very high volatility, I can anticipate sharp moves, right? And if we come lower, right, we expand lower, retrace into a fair value gap around EQ of this expansion, right? We tap EQ, and then we begin to expand lower, taking out this next swing low. I do not expect price to come back higher, so I had gone break even, even though nothing really invalidated my trade. It was just mitigating risk at this point. We had continued expansion. This closure through told me that there's no reason for price to return back above this high. Again, we had another wick, but what are we doing? We're still respecting these bearish imbalances and these bearish order block that we're creating, bearish order block that we're creating. Further expansion sell side. And in my live recording, I was expecting a flush here, right? Because if we have all this LR, these stack liquidity, we should flush through this if we're really bearish. Like exactly what we did. Disrespecting these, we're just barely wicking these imbalances, rejecting heavily. And then we end up distributing to our drawn liquidity. And what time do we distribute or beat the drawn liquidity? 9:46, right? So how does this play into a 30-minute power 3, right? Open higher. We have a high formed at 9:30 immediately, right? Oops. And now, other than that, right, we can also view the 30-minute power of 3 in consecutive candles. So how can we do that, right? We can look at the 30-minute power of 3 in 15-minute candles. So what does 9:30 do, right? It opens higher and then expands lower and distributes lower. What does 9:45 do? 9:45 opens lower. Obviously, don't pattern this. This doesn't happen every single time, but you can view this with power of 3, right? 9:45 opens lower. And then, oh, I don't know if I messed that up here. Right, 9:45 is opening lower on this key level. And then it actually hosts this distribution higher, this rebalance, right? Because now we have 9:30, it has developed bearish until we have 9:45 opposing this initial manipulation. Okay, obviously I wasn't interested in longs today, but this is just how 9:45 developed along with the 30-minute power 3. Like, right, we open higher, expand lower, and then we close actually right here. So very textbook day with this Judas swing, right? The opposing run of liquidity in the opposite direction of our drawn liquidity or trend to gather liquidity or gather fuel pretty much to expand lower and distribute to our drawn liquidity. So very A+ day here. I'll just quickly go over the rest of the price action. I got off right after that trade, but I did see another short opportunity that presented itself. That was this one right here, right? We continue to respect this protected high. I think we formed SMT at these highs, right? We did expand above it, but we do have SMT here. And then obviously we're failing to distribute or expand above this high as a sign that it could be a protected high that we could trade away from, right? We have this accumulation. We manipulate this internal high, right? If we are bullish, here, let's put it this way. If we are bullish and we want to take this high, this would be the A+ setup to take us higher, right? We have this manipulation into internal range liquidity when we're expanding out of it with the CISD, IFVG, everything, right? So if we're bullish, this should take us to this high, but we fail to. We reject at this, intermediate high, we immediately displace lower. So this is just, it could be a short that you could have taken. Obviously, you could be targeting short-term low or high resistance liquidity, but it doesn't align with a high time frame and the daily distribution. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I think the 9:30 play was definitely the cleanest. This manipulation here, respecting these highs, rejecting at the highs, right? We continue to expand away from this consistently. Like we're just rejecting from this area consistently, right? And then we have the manipulation to form a protected high to trade away from, and then mechanically classified or entering by this expansion away with CISD. That takes us down to probably a new low day eventually, right? But yeah, that's all. Hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you took this in the comments or whatever. But yeah, have a good one.